It's all about underpriced attention.
21st century.
There's
so
much
much
to understand. Education
Hold
is
on,
everything.
entertain, educate.
How are you doing? Thank you for joining us today in the podcast. I think it's best that I leave my guests to introduce themselves, really.
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me. I'm Luke from Redicco. It's a marketing company in Kent. And I suppose we're here today to talk about the culture of the company and the revolution that we went through, because it's, I suppose, very different to a normal business setup. It's very non-traditional, I suppose, and that's why you've asked me to come in today and talk a bit more about that.
Absolutely, because you're not in the development role, are you? The web development side of things. You are in there for, is it HR purposes, pulling people in, recruitment, is that right?
Well, no, not really. So historically, I came from a content marketing background.
Wow.
So
okay.
I traditionally I did sort of journalism at university. I always wanted to be a journalist, fell into content marketing. I joined Redicco when we were only sort of 3 or 4 people big, and sort of joined as kind of a content lead, a content marketer. And then eventually, as the company evolved and we took on more people, a role became available to move over towards a more operational type role within the company. And I had the skill set to help on that side of things. And then with the culture stuff coming along as well, being driven by directors, that then kind of fell into my lap as well to really push that forward. And that's really taken that role that within the company even further into a place where we're now quite regarded as one of the best places to work in the UK, from all the stuff that the directors and what we've done to really drive that forward.
I mean, what made you take that on? Was it, I mean, like, you really own that space now. You know, the whole thing that got us interested in the first place was like, we're seeing your LinkedIn content. David tagged me in on something. I'm like, that's exactly what we want for our business. We love that culture. We try to instill that. We've not gone as far as you have.
Yep.
I mean, you really, really are impressive. But the fact that you're a content marketer first really does show the way you portray that on time on the news feed. I'd like to touch on that first. I mean, you know, the role of the business that you represent isn't about the culture. It's about delivering services and products for your clients. But yet they're giving you the freedom and permission to create and shine in your own skill set.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that kind of fell into place where we've always been very good at what we've done from a service side. So we focus on SEO and PPC predominantly, so all kind of organic and paid listings you might see in Google. I've never really been an expert in that side of things, so I was just doing the content for that area. But with the cultural changes that came about and how the business has evolved, I suppose the skill set I had and what I've kind of done in the past in taking new projects and following them through and really being able to implement things and getting things done, I suppose my skill set is kind of just getting things done, sort of just taking a project and achieving it and following it through. So with the manifesto, which I suppose we'll talk about shortly with the culture, it was a case of, right, this is what we want to achieve. You're the best person to do this. So go out and see if we can get it done. And obviously, being a service-led business, as I mentioned, we've always been sort of proud of the work we produce. We've always had good scores from clients. But it was that internal culture that we really needed to address, because even though we always thought we had a world-class or a great culture, there were some underlying problems that we needed to fix. There was still some flaws in that. And that's why that role kind of landed at my feet.
So I suppose from my perspective as a business owner, how do I get that trust in my team to take as many holidays as they want to and not take the mick, to be able to work from home, manage their own output? Convince me that is the right way to go. I've seen it for myself. I listen to your videos. I'm inspired by them massively. You know, and that in itself as well, looking at the company that you work for, them allowing you to spread your wings and fly in that space alone, for me is like, wow, that's really good. For you, that's really good. You know, and for them, not allowing, you don't need permission to do it, but you know, you're really carving a niche in your own field almost. You know, I'd have you out as an expert in this culture building environment, and you know, I hope I don't say anything out of turn. I reckon you can go into businesses and implement that yourself with what I'm listening to on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, potentially, and that's something that we could look at in the future as well, because I suppose what we've done is a blueprint model to put into other businesses as well. I suppose in terms of giving people that freedom, I'll take it back to the very beginning, I suppose, which makes it easy to understand. In, I suppose, 2017, when the manifesto came about, we, as I mentioned earlier, we've always focused on having a world-class culture. We had sort of free food in the office. We were doing lots of free events. We sort of nights out, all that kind of stuff. Things that the team would enjoy. Thinking, great, this is a really good place to be. But actually getting some feedback from the team, doing an internal NPS score, so Net Promoter Score, found that the scores and the feedback from the team wasn't where we thought it should be.
Right.
And there were some clear problems, I suppose, that were coming out of it, such as unnecessary management, such as someone might be going up to their line manager saying, can I work from home tomorrow? That line manager might say yes. The next person goes to their line manager and they say no. Suddenly that's confusion, it's frustrating, it's frustrations within the team that then become apparent, and things like cliques were forming, kind of all these issues that a lot of normal businesses have but don't really address because it's just a normal thing to have in the business.
Funny you should say that. I mean, like, you know, even with a small team, like not the team that I've got right now, but generally speaking, the first team that I had, there was only 9 of us in the office, and even with just 9, there were cliques forming.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what have I done?
Yeah.
You know, I was providing food, fruit, and all that kind of stuff, but it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about giving her the cool stuff away and being approachable.
Absolutely, and that's what you said there is the key thing, is that you suddenly take it to heart. So the directors of the business were looking at this and thinking, we are giving you all of this stuff for free, spending all this money on trying to create a happy, engaged team.
Yeah.
But it seems it's not enough for you, so I suppose taking it to heart is then the wrong thing to do, because you need to be looking at what that feedback is and what actually is going on within the company, which is where the manifesto of the kind of culture manifesto came about. Was all of this feedback was, okay, right, if we continue going down this road, we're going to end up in the same place that all these other companies end up, all these other 95% of companies end up, where it's an okay place to work. There are common issues, persistent issues, but they're just not dealt with. HR never deals with it. So this culture manifesto was, okay, right, let's look at some of the best businesses around the world from a great place to work perspective. So what are they doing that's really good? All these great initiatives, reading various books on various schemes and initiatives that they've got and they run with, and changing the belief and the mindset to believe in the best in people and that people want to do the right thing. And now what I mean by that is 95% of businesses run traditional models, which are a 9 to 5, 5 days a week. You can work from home if you ask the line manager, you have to get approval for annual leave, all that kind of stuff. But the reason that it's run in this way, that there are so many rules and regulations and guidelines, is because they're trying to protect themselves from the 5% of people who will take the mick, not the 95% of people who won't, and actually do want to work, do have purpose in what they're doing, are motivated, do want to do a good job.
Yeah.
Instead, we protect ourselves from the abuse that the 5% might give that system. So what we did was we turned it on its head and focused on the 95% who wanted to do a good job. And the 5% can go away. Right? Let's not focus on that. And that's the big problem that a lot of businesses face. So when you start focusing on the 95%, what do they want? Yeah. They want freedom, they want trust, they want responsibility. So we then laid out all these policies that gave them exactly that, where they could own their job, have complete autonomy and responsibility in what they were doing on a day-to-day basis.
Was this something you laid out drip feed, or did you go, tomorrow, this is the manifesto, go mad, go wild, this is your new way of working, or did you drip feed things out just to see? Because me, again, thinking from an owner's perspective, wages, holiday, people go on holiday, as much holiday as you want. I need people to actually do the job. Did you drip feed this out just to test little elements, or did you go, boom, deal with it, enjoy yourself, guys? You know what I mean?
Go party.
Yeah.
A bit of both, I suppose. So the manifesto itself was presented to the team. So obviously this was all taken from feedback from the team and all these elements, and created this manifesto. That was then, right, this is what we want to do, this is the plan. At that point, it was then handed to me of, right, roll this out. And the best way in my head to do this was to create a roadmap, like you would do with any normal project, put it in phases of this is how it's going to work. And the first thing we needed to do was understand what the red flags were if it doesn't work. Right. Because you're going to go from having kind of a normal setup where there are rules and regulations around how people work, and there's all these procedures, and you have to ask permission and get approval for everything, to a place where there aren't any managers, and you are now self-regulating and in complete control. And it's a lot harder to kind of I suppose, take that and run with it. Even if even for a normal person, so if you've got a manager every day, you've kind of got a fallback system. Whereas if suddenly you're given that complete autonomy, it takes a while to get used to.
Yeah.
So the first thing we had to do was get in place those red flags. So it was the team being able to set their own targets, having the client NPS score as a key performance indicator, having 360 reviews amongst the team, so that we're suddenly creating social accountability. So if someone isn't pulling their weight, other people in the team can raise that and be comfortable in doing that. Because again, if there's no managerial structure in place, there's no one to work out if someone is abusing the system or if someone isn't performing. So it falls then on the team to be happy in raising that.
Self-regulating. And so what is NPS score?
So that's the Net Promoter Score.
Okay.
So that's a system used to basically create a calculation of how happy your clients are. So it's a 0 to 10 based on how likely you would be to recommend that company to a friend or colleague. And 0 to 6 is known as a detractor. So it's obviously people that would easily move to a competitor if they came along and pitched for that work. 7s and 8s are passive, so they're neither here nor there. You're probably doing an okay job, but nothing's wowing them enough to really stay. 9s and 10s are promoters, so they're going to go out and actively advocate your business and tell other people about it. And this kind of score comes back and it ranges from -100 to +100 based on an algorithm. And to get a world class, you've got to get above 70. And for the internal one, when we started this transition, we were around the 40 mark, which was a good. But since we've gone up to 96 out of 100, which is a world class score.
Yeah.
And then the same for clients as well, in that we started at a 56, which is excellent, but since the transition have moved to 81, which is world class again as well against this system.
I mean, we jumped on a bit. I mean, we're talking about results now, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
That is just like amazing in terms of whose idea was this to start with? An idea like this is something that I'm born with. I only want to work in a place that I want to enjoy working in. So I try and give that environment out as well. And I try and portray that, but we still have holiday forms, we still have procedures for illnesses and sicknesses and all that kind of stuff. I still do worry about the 5%. Because I don't want everybody to start looking in, and just by you even saying that 95% we focus on them and thinking that's just so obvious, but it's not something I've really thought of.
Well, I suppose what we try and do is there's no rules around how it works, but the one caveat is to make a positive impact. So whether it's on your job, on your team, on your clients, on your work, on a day-to-day basis, always have that in mind in making a positive impact and not a negative one. And that means that we're only treating people like adults. We're only giving people that responsibility, work in a way that's right for them, because ultimately everyone's really, really different. And again, the problem with having this 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week structure is that it's kind of pigeonholing everyone into the same routine. Whereas you might be able to get up in the morning, get cracking on with work at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's when you work best. That's when you find yourself most productive. For me, I hate the mornings. I'd need a couple of coffees to really get going, but I know that, and you know how you work. So rather than us both working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, why can't we decide when we're most productive? Because we know ourselves better than anyone. And if it's possible to do that, why can't we trust people to work in that way? And that's kind of where this came from, in that actually all you're doing by having structures and how people work is creating underproductive teams that probably aren't as motivated as they could be, have less purpose than they possibly should have, and you're just not going to create, I suppose you're not going to get the results at the end of the day that you want. And that NPS score, that client NPS score, shows that giving more freedom to the team and letting them work in a way that's right for them does bring success from clients. A lot of people say to me, well, how are you going to possibly talk to clients and communicate with them, and if the phone rings or schedule meetings, all that kind of stuff, because clients are going to be working 9 to 5 the same way that they've always done. So how can you possibly service them in the way it's right for them? But again, the onus is on the individual. So if you've got a consultant looking after their clients, the idea is they've got to have that positive impact. So they're going to work in a way that's still right for their clients, but ultimately right for them. So they're just in control of their time. It doesn't mean they're not going to do a great job, because they are, and that's proven in the results. But it's just kind of giving that emphasis and putting the onus on the person to really drive that.
So this is going to sound really wrong as a question, especially building the culture. How do you police that then? How do you ensure that is what's happening? And if I prefer to work in the morning and it's kind of like we are supposed to work as a team, how do I know that you're going to fulfill your end of the bargain so that when I come in the morning it's done? How does all that get I suppose police is the wrong word, isn't it, really? But
Yeah, I mean, so again, I suppose there's no, if you create rules and guidelines and restrictions around how things might work, all you're doing is taking away the freedom that you're trying to give. So I suppose it's hard because it's a real leap of faith, but you've just got to jump straight into it and trust people and say to them, look, act as adults, communicate and collaborate as you would do in an adult situation and get the work done together. If someone knows that they're not going to be in on a certain day or they're working different hours, all they do is they message the people they're working in their team with and say, look, this is how I'm working, this is the latest on this work, or these are my plans over the next few days. It's just encouraging people to really own that self-management and make sure they have that positive impact on their teams, rather than saying you can have freedom but only within these guidelines, because that just doesn't work.
It brings me on to a really good question. So are there any tools that you use for collaboration? Any systems, CMS systems that you currently use that are unknown?
I suppose not really. I mean, our HR type stuff, so everyone books all their annual leave and work from home days in People HR, which is the HR side of things. All our projects are managed through Jira and Confluence, so it's quite a Dev-y type system, but we use that for project management. People also use Trello as well for their individual client boards and things like that. But nothing that's too out there, or that might not be unknown to people.
What about when it comes to the proper day-to-day businessy type stuff where you're talking about, we just had a load of reviews. So on Friday, I had back-to-back appointments of all the team, reviewed their progress, spoke about how they're doing. Does that exist in that kind of culture that you've created?
Yeah, so I suppose what we've done is, I suppose with the manifesto there were 6 big things. So the work-life balance is one of those 6. So that work-life balance is the holiday, the work from home if you want to, choose your own hours, and we pay for all sickness. Another part of that is management. So completely eradicating managers from the company.
Okay.
And there's this crazy stat where 49% of people would take a pay cut to have a different manager.
Wow.
Which is a crazy stat, and it shows that we're forcing bad managers on half of the nation for no reason whatsoever.
That's a sad stat.
It is. It's ridiculous, and it kind of. The reason why this happens is because the manager's role, I suppose, a traditional manager, there are 2 sets of roles for that person. So they've got the skill set side, which is the experience they've got, their expertise, how good they are at the job, how long they've been doing it. And then you've got the personal side, which is motivating, coaching, supporting, empowering other people.
Yeah.
And what happens in a lot of companies is they get promoted based on the experience and the skill set rather than the people skills. Now, this then leads to demotivated teams. You've got a manager in place who's not the right person, a team underneath them who are completely demotivated and don't feel they can talk to that person. So we kind of scrapped that system completely and introduce coaches who are responsible for the people side. So again, that brings its own challenges around things like salary setting, annual reviews. So we had to think of different bespoke ways that we could do that within the organisation. And annual reviews we scrapped again because a lot of the time it's just box ticking. A lot of people don't look forward to them. In fact, annual reviews are often kind of seen with fear and dread, and people are kind of, what they're going to get from their manager. It's not a great experience. So we replaced it with these quarterly check-ins, which are done by the coach. And the difference is that you pick your own coach, so you pick the right person for you, who you feel could coach you in the best way. We have these quarterly check-ins, all built around a positive experience. So it's aspirations, what they want to do next, what they're pleased with, where they want to go, rather than looking at the negative side of things, of what they haven't achieved or where failures might have been. It's all around positives and making sure that these quarterly check-ins are built around having a positive impact, a positive experience that people look forward to and kind of enjoy. Yeah. Because ultimately you want to come to work, you've got to go to work 5 days a week or 4 days a week, or however often you go. So you've got to enjoy it. And so if we're putting all of these processes where people just don't like them or see no value in them whatsoever, it's just pointless and it's helping no one. So it's about creating these experiences that people do enjoy, gives them more motivation, gives them more purpose, and ultimately creates a more productive team than under previous kind of systems.
So if you were to set somebody their own, well, you wouldn't be setting their KPIs, they would set their own KPIs. Is that how you then determine whether people get pay rises, bonus structures, all those kind of stuff? You know, is there a way that you guide people to say, look, you're master and commander of your own destiny here, working in my business. I think it was you that said last time we spoke that people are almost like have businesses within the business. And I use that, thank you very much, because it is so true. There's so true. The guys here, you I took it straight back to the office. I met this guy, he's really, really exciting. You know, he said this line, and that's like you guys as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I probably don't follow through like 100%. You know, what about like bonuses and pay structure? If there's one guy that wants to stay on this as a KPI and he can't progress, but yet he's frustrated, does that then give you then, I suppose, a permission to go, this is what you set out?
So I mean, everyone sets their own targets. So we use a system called the OKRs, which is objectives and key results. So we've got these objectives at the sort of top level of the business, which is this is what we want to achieve this year. Everyone then sets their own objectives and their own key results to help us achieve that within their departments and what they can individually affect. This is done on a quarterly basis, and it does tie into the profit share. So we do profit share within the business.
Okay.
60% of that is automatic, so based on business performance. So if we do well, everyone gets a good chunk of that. And the remaining 40% for each person is based on their individual targets. Again, people will start thinking, well, won't people set really easy targets so they can get their profit share? But the way that we've modelled the business is on trust and saying to people, look, you need to be setting yourself challenging objectives, otherwise it's not helping anyone. Yeah. And we've actually seen, we've just set the this quarter's objectives recently, and people set themselves really hard objectives that they don't hit, despite it being linked to profit share and despite them having the power to set their own ones. Again, it's all social accountability. It's in those departments signing things off. When it comes to salaries, again, we looked at a very different structure. So when we removed managers, we introduced a salary panel. So everyone in the team voted for who they wanted to be on a salary panel. And the top 4 people are then put on the panel. It comes to January, we've got a budget which the head of finance produces. So this is the budget for salary increases we can get. Everyone applies for a salary increase using a form. So they put in there sort of the reasons why. Their job role might have changed, their experience might have changed. They're taking on more responsibility, all those things that you might see a salary increase for. They apply to the panel, and that panel then makes a case-by-case decision looking at that application, people in a similar role, marketplace research, all that kind of stuff. So it's done in a very kind of democratic way, where there's no longer one person responsible for deciding that salary, and that's the manager. These are the people that were voted in because you've asked them to be part of this. So again, it's creating unique ways to structure the business when you're moving away from traditional systems, which is the problem that a lot of businesses will have when they're looking at the culture. They'll come and say to me, well, how's it going to work in my business, or how's it going to work in my business? And I'm not going to know the answer by just standing there and telling them. I've got to go into the business and find out. I've got to ask the right questions, which is stuff that they can do. All you've got to do is go to the team and say, okay, right, this is what we want to do. How can we do it? And whether that's working in a call centre, whether that's working in manufacturing, whatever it might be, if you want to introduce flexible working and you've got these problems in your head of how it might work, just talk to the team and find out how it might work, because the chances are they'll have the solution. They're the ones that run with it day in, day out. So get them involved and find out how things could work.
I was going to say, because culture is a very individualistic kind of thing, isn't it, really? You know, you're going to look at your team, you look at your industry, you look at how many people are in the business, who's top, middle, bottom, even though there isn't one in the culture-driven business. They've got to be different set of guides for every business. You know, where was this inspired from or by? Because this, like, when I speak to you, I'm thinking, wow, this must have taken some time to consider. You know, like, when I mean by did this thing get drip fed, I mean, was it completely considered from top to bottom and then introduced in a drip feed manner? Or did you think, right, this isn't working, let's readjust and assess, and we operate like this now?
So at the start, it was very much a framework. So looking at and speaking to businesses in the UK that were doing sort of this radical stuff. So it might be a company that doesn't have managers, or it might be a company that has unlimited holiday, and speaking to them, finding out how it works in their business and taking inspiration from that. And this sort of, the very start of it was led by the directors based on that internal feedback and thinking to themselves, okay, we're running a business that at the moment isn't working from a cultural side. It's working really, really well from a service side, and people are doing amazing stuff, but eventually it's going to come to a point where we're going to struggle to recruit, we're going to struggle to retain. turnover rate's going to be high because people are going to be moving on and moving to another company. And so from the director's perspective, it's okay, right, we really need to change the culture of the business for longevity, really, and to make sure that Redicco is the place that these amazing SEO people and these amazing PPC people, whatever department it is, want to come to.
Yeah.
From that perspective, it was, I suppose, a very top-level framework, and then rolled out, we could then look at the pieces of the puzzle that would help to fit together. So, okay, we want to roll out a limited holiday, but how's that then going to work? And then speaking to the team, finding out what questions they might have, what solutions they have on various parts of it, and just getting the whole team involved in the rollout. It probably took 9 to 12 months to get everything done, all of these 6 parts of the manifesto. But it's so worth it. And the big part to consider is to make sure that there's constant movement in what's going on, because when you announce some changes to the team of this is all the amazing exciting stuff that's going to come, what you don't want is it to go quiet, because otherwise the team start thinking, oh, here we go again, something else has been announced, something else has been told, all this amazing stuff, we're going to get unlimited holiday, nothing ever happens. So you need to make sure that there's someone constantly rolling it out, constantly keeping it fresh, constantly keeping people updated of what's going on and the time frames of when things are going to happen and how it's going to work, and really just get the whole team involved. That's the key.
So from top to bottom, what are these 6 elements?
Yeah, so the first one is job ownership. So it's a way around sort of basically owning your job, setting those own targets, being responsible for those client scores and that client communication and 360 reviews and constant assessment within the team. So that's the job ownership side. We've got the work-life balance, which you talked about, which gives people complete control over how they work. We've got the management side, which we talked about, so scrapping that and replacing it with coaches. We've got transparency, so going completely transparent within the business. So everything in the business is now pretty much open, whether that's revenue, profits, overheads, cost of sales, P&Ls to different departments, all that kind of stuff. Constant information is always open and accessible to everyone, because if you don't give people information, they can't make informed choices and help drive the business forward. So it's making everyone a business owner or trying to get everyone to act as a business owner with that information, because they don't have the information, they can't act as a business owner. So you can't expect them to set targets or make decisions on a day-to-day basis that will positively impact the company. So at the moment, the only thing that isn't transparent is obviously sort of personal HR stuff and salaries. But salaries I do want to make transparent at some point. But
really?
It's trying to get the team on board with it.
Is that in order to say, like, come on guys, you could be doing this if you just change a couple of things? It's more of an incentive to make it transparent?
Not really. It's more just because everything else is transparent.
Right.
The problem with salaries is a lot of people still see it as quite a personal thing. It's they want to own that. They don't want everyone else to be able to see that. And we've got career matrices in place which shows sort of the bands of people, whether you're a junior, a midweight, a senior in your various department, and what you could earn and what skills you need to then move to the next level, what expertise you need. But I think just having transparency across the board, I don't know, for me it just feels right in that cultural setup where transparency is key and everyone should have access to information. It's that missing part still.
Doesn't sound like a contradiction, does it?
Yes, I think for me it's still an important part of that. But I don't want to force it on people if they don't want it. So I think it's still kind of, I suppose, some education needed, and not necessarily education, but trying to understand why people don't want it. And I suppose trying to encourage them to before sort of forcing it to happen. So transparency is a big one. We've also got the recruitment side, which is the 5th one. So obviously in the culture that we've got, it's about bringing people in that fit in with that, because not everyone's right for it. And that's absolutely fine. Some people can't handle complete responsibility and complete freedom to do what they want to, and that autonomy, which is absolutely right, but it means it's not right for Redicco.
So in terms of recruitment then, is it there's no managers, so I'm going to have to try and get used to this terminology. But is it okay then? So you're in control of your responsibilities. So let's have a discussion. Do you need more help? So are you in charge of recruiting, seeing as I'm in charge of my role, it's my business within the business, I need extra support to hit my KPIs?
So obviously in each department, so I suppose if you consider departments as circles, what we have is a lead of that circle who's responsible for bringing people in and responsible for the P&L of that department. So they've got no people elements at all within that role. So it's very much a skill type basis. So if you go back to the role A and role B, where you've got the experience and the expertise and the technical skill set, and you've got the people side, this lead type character is that role A.
Yeah.
So they're responsible for driving it forward, because if you're looking at, for instance, an SEO side of things, we need someone who's going to be accountable for driving that forward, bringing on new clients, making sure that we're moving to the next level. So that's someone that's responsible for recruitment. In that recruitment structure, we have culture interviews. So we have your typical first interview, we'll have a phone interview, we talk about values with the person and find out if we marry up from that side of things. We then have a first interview, we'll have a technical interview if need be, there might be a presentation. But then following that, there's a culture interview. So it's a very informal. It might be down the pub. It might be getting pizzas into the office. But it's getting more people from the team, meeting this person in an informal atmosphere and working out if they're right for them. Brilliant. And of course, first impressions are really good. And a lot of time you can get something from a first impression. It's not foolproof, but it's a way that more people from the team can get a buy-in to the person joining, rather than just seeing them walking past them into a room being interviewed and walking back out again. Yeah. It's kind of getting them to meet, chat to them, find out what they're like, what they're about, and whether they think that they're going to benefit the business and help drive it forward in the way that everyone in the company is now doing on a day-to-day basis.
And the final one?
And the final one is social impact.
Yeah.
So before, we weren't doing anything from a social side, from a charity side. So it was a case of, right, at the moment, we're in a privileged position where as a business, we can impact people on a day-to-day basis, whether it's financially, whether it's through services, whether it's through volunteering. So we set up a charity committee, someone sort of volunteered to put that into motion, and we now donate sort of X percentage of revenue every single year to charitable causes. We have sort of servicing stuff that we do, so we work with various charities on their paid campaigns. We get Google Ad grants through for them and run the campaigns for free. We've done volunteering stuff, so we've had people go down and work with people in homeless shelters, and we provided a Christmas meal for the homeless people in Maidstone recently, which is one of the local towns near us. People from that team went down and met people and helped with the Christmas dinners, all that kind of stuff. So that social impact is something that we hadn't really done before. Amazing. I think in 2017 we donated about £500 to charity. But last year it was more sort of like £12,000.
Oh, wow.
So it's a huge amount of money, which is something that we're really passionate about. And that charity committee are just now responsible for helping to do that. Yeah. And people are getting, I suppose, a lot more buy-in into that side of things as well, and really want to find out how we're helping from a charitable side.
Brilliant. Well, I've had the 5-minute call about 3 minutes ago. I've got 2 final questions for you. What about as a businessman? What about the bottom line? What's it done to that?
Yeah, sure. So from a revenue side, so in 2018, so kind of the year it was rolled out, we had our best year financially as a company. Okay. In 2019, revenue increased 65% and profit increased 41%. So a huge kind of increase over a 12-month period. Every single month last year was better year on year than the year before. So it's a real significant increase.
Do you think that's because people just love what they do now? They don't feel like they're bouncing off of walls. They've got the freedom to sort of flow about and just deliver.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I mean, obviously we've got aggressive sort of revenue targets and plans to kind of grow and double. So part of it is still that original plan and sort of taking on the bigger clients. But it's still the correlation that we've got a happier team now. Yeah. We've got happier clients. And if our NPS is going up to a world class, clients are now obviously spending more money with us, or they're referring other parts of their business. So we might have a client who's sort of a group and they have multiple companies. They're now introducing us to other people within that group, other sort of heads, because they know that we're doing a good job. They're happy with us. So it's a two-sided coin, really. It's that aggressive growth plus the fact that clients are happier that helps us to get better results. And
what about, is there a tip that you can give somebody out there wanting to introduce a culture-led bread business? What kind of thing would you have them start to do now to see if it'll work?
So it's one of the things that I say a lot, but ultimately it's not how much you give people for free, but how you free people to give more, which is the key. Cool. So at the very start, we were giving everyone stuff for free. Yeah. So free food, free nights out, free events. But that doesn't really matter. What it is how you can free people up to really show you what they can do, give them the tools they need to do their job, and let them just do it. And you'll be rewarded in performance and what they achieve, throughout that you won't regret it.
Yeah. Listen, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time today. You absolutely love what you do, I can tell, because it comes out so fluently. You know it.
Yes.
It
yeah,
is you.
absolutely.
It is what you are. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for your
No,
time
thank you for
today.
having me.